makes us human? I think what separates us from all other beings is the need and desire to be loved. And I believe that the greatest gift a leader can give is love. For me, great leadership cannot exist without love, and in order for that to make sense, it's important to understand the origins of the word and its historical meanings. By stepping outside of today's cultural definition of love, we can see the beautiful complexity as a key to great leadership. I've got some great firsthand experience to prove it. The word love today carries a very different meaning than it did in its origins. In today's movies, TV, and on the internet, we define love as this idealized notion of romantic things that is often confused with lust. In its earliest forms, love could not be defined with just one word. The Greeks define love in many ways, all of which apply perfectly to the basic tenets of great leadership. The first Greek definition is philia, and I'm not a Greek scholar, just like Curtis is not a Latin scholar. But this is the sort of comradely love that you show with soldiers, where you share fighting side by side on the battlefield, showing loyalty and sharing emotions. As a school superintendent, I am in the people business. Students, staff, families, the community. As a leader, I'm somehow responsible to all of these people in some way. In that work, there are many complex situations that require the collective knowledge and expertise of a team of leaders who are united in their mission and ultimately serve students in the best possible way. One of the finest examples of this type of philia leadership love came during an unimaginable tragedy of an accident that happened outside our high school, taking the lives of 2 wonderful students. Our team fought like warriors that day. From functioning as first responders to communicating with all stakeholders, to planning and executing a vigil and supports for all who needed them, to ultimately sitting in the hospital for days and nights alongside grieving families. Even now, a year later, our team spends time with each family and has worked diligently to ensure that we are providing every possible resource to our students and their families in the wake of that tragedy. Without that deep philia love our team shares, I'm not sure we'd have survived that event. The second Greek definition is ludus, and it means a lot of things, but today we're going to talk about it in the fun and laughter and collegial kind of context for this type of love. We've all heard the phrase, laughter is the best medicine. Research shows that there are many quantifiable benefits to laughter. It relaxes your whole body. A good, hearty laugh relieves physical tension and stress and leaves your muscles relaxed for up to 45 minutes later. Laughter boosts your immune system by decreasing stress hormones and thus increasing immune cells and infection-fighting antibodies, thus improving your resistance to disease. Laughter triggers the release of endorphins, the body's natural feel-good chemical. Endorphins promote an overall sense of well-being and can even temporarily relieve pain. Laughter may help you to live longer. A study in Norway found that people with a strong sense of humor outlived those who don't laugh as much. The difference was particularly noticeable in patients with cancer. Leading with love, laughter, and having the capacity to laugh at yourself is healing for both your body and soul. I'm so grateful and blessed to enjoy relationships with our team that include time set aside from work to laugh and love on each other. We've created lip sync videos together, held picnics and parties with our families, and just spent time enjoying each other's company. When times are tough, it's these memories and experiences that keep this leadership team together. The third Greek definition, and perhaps the most radical type of love, is agape, or selfless love, that is extended to all people, whether they're your family or a distant stranger. This is at the foundation of one of the 2 basic tenets I believe are necessary for successful leadership. In this case, good, solid relationship. C.S. Lewis referred to agape as gift love, the highest form of Christian love, but it also appears in other religions and traditions, such as the idea of metta, or universal loving kindness in Buddhism. This is also closely related to the Hebrew form of the word love, ahava. Most Hebrew words can be broken down to a 3-consonant root word that contains the essence of the word's meaning. and the root of ahava is ahav. The term ahav in Hebrew means to give. True ahava love is more concerned about giving than receiving. Being the center of someone's attention isn't love, and love isn't about getting some feeling or fix. Ahava is about giving devotion and time. Giving is the vehicle for love. Meaningful relationships have mutual giving, and love can focus on receiving, but ahava is all about giving. Consider the Hebrew word ahava is not an emotion, but an action. It's not something that happens to you, but a condition that you create when you give. A true leader knows and understands that in order to be successful, you must invest in people. And I would argue that you must love them. This means developing strong, meaningful relationships which carry the yucky stuff that goes along with all of that. Every one of us is carrying a burden or burdens, and every single one of us is broken. In order to fully understand and appreciate one another, we must embrace that in order to grow together. A leader must give ahava and agape love. In my leadership training, I was taught to believe in a clear line between collegial relationships and friendships. And while this concept certainly is applicable for supervisory relationships, I believe it does not and should not always apply to leaders. As leaders, it is incumbent upon us to empower those around us to become leaders in their own right. And in order to coach and advise and develop trust, deep relationship is absolutely necessary. This requires us as leaders to give a great deal at personal sacrifice, including sharing our vulnerabilities, our weaknesses, and our areas for growth. It's in this place where I, as a leader, learn the most from my colleagues and foster my own growth. It's only in that mutual agape relationship that true growing and learning and maturing in leadership can occur. On a broader scale, and we talked about this a bit this morning, there is growing evidence that agape is in dangerous decline in many countries. Empathy levels in the U.S. have declined sharply over the last 40 years, with the steepest fall occurring in the last 10. One need only watch the evening news to see this in full effect. We urgently need to revive our capacity to love one another and care for one another, as we leaders owe that to future generations. The last definition I'd like to share with you today is philautia, which translates to self-love, and we all know this could go either way. The first kind is associated with narcissism, where you become self-obsessed. The healthy version of this is where you enhance your wider capacity to love. If you love yourself and feel secure and know yourself, you'll have love to give others. I'm going to call that empathy, which we talked about a little bit this morning. Daniel Goleman, that name we heard this morning as well too, calls out empathy as a key to his definition of emotional intelligence, or emotional quotient, EQ. This ability to understand other people's emotions and reactions can only be achieved if self-awareness is achieved. Goleman believes that we must be able to understand ourselves before we can understand others, and emotional maturity in this category includes having the traits of perceiving what others are feeling, being interested in other people's worries or concerns, the ability to anticipate someone's emotional response to a problem or situation, and understanding society's norms and why people act the way they do. A good example of this in action is being able to understand and cope with someone else's hardships or sadness. When you fully understand yourself and why you feel the things you feel, you can understand other people even if they are different than you. I witnessed agape and philautia love in its purest form as our team held families and colleagues and students as they grieved. I felt this love from school leaders and colleagues both locally and from across the state, and some of you are here today. I saw this love expressed by our community on billboards and in shop windows. I witnessed this love in the generosity of volunteers and financial donors, and I would contend that without this leadership love, we would never have been able to move through and beyond to do the crucial work we do for our students and community. So all this love talk sounds great and easy, but in reality, it's difficult, complex, down and dirty stuff. Love is not easy. It's hard to cite a single example of someone who exemplifies this all the time. And yet, I found the most perfect example of a being that is pure love in all these forms. This lovely quote will explain that perfectly. In almost any movie, book, or song, whether it's spelled out or not, love is the bottom line. But our fancy frontal lobes seem to cover that with undue complication. When something breaks in our human hearts, we tend to go numb, wallow in self-pity, or indulge in righteous wrath. We distract and justify with our fancy human words and concepts which flow in a never-ending stream. Dogs don't do any of that. They're very clear that they're all about love, and they feel it and express it fully wherever they get the chance. Love is their superpower. They forgive because they don't see the fun in holding a grudge. They love again even if their hearts have been broken. If they make a mistake and we scold them, they don't justify or blame push. They're simply crestfallen, telling us, "I'm sorry," with their whole bodies until we smile at them again. Relationships can be so simple, really. In the aftermath of our tragedies last fall, therapy and facility dogs showed us what love and leadership truly means. It means sitting with us when we're in our darkest moments. It means loving unconditionally, no matter how you look or sound or smell. It means giving and forgiving over and over again. It means having no fear or no expectations. Love must be our superpower. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, world-renowned psychiatrist, says that there are only two emotions. Don't listen, Curtis. Love and fear. All positive emotions come from love, and all negative emotions come from fear. From love flows happiness, contentment, peace, and joy. From fear comes anger, hate, anxiety, and guilt. It's true that those two primary emotions guide all those others, but it's more accurate to say that there is only one of those two at one time. You can't feel them both at the same time. If we're in fear, we're not in a place of love, and when we're in love, we cannot be in a place of fear. We get to choose. I choose love. What makes us human? The desire to be loved. What makes us leaders? Doing and being love. Thank you.